Good day everyone, and welcome back to my guide to every ship and every variant in Infinite Lagrange, or Lagrange, however you want to say it. Today, as the thumbnail and title of this video suggests, we are going to be looking at the Winged Hussar. Last time we looked at the Taurus, so yeah, I'm doing this in no particular order, just whatever I feel like doing. And as I mentioned in the previous one, I'm going to do each variant of each ship in its own separate video, partially because I don't have them all, at least not on one account, and also it just allows you to find exactly what you're looking for a little bit easier, and it just allows me to make more videos, really. But yeah, so the Winged Hussar light missile variant, this is a pretty common one because you can get it from a $7.99 starter box, which has a 50% chance of giving it to you, and you can buy it 3 times. So most people get this ship, and it is worth it. It is a good ship with some good DPM. It's not really a tank, but yeah, we'll give it an overview, which I'm sort of already doing. Then we'll talk about its damage and a little bit about how it will stack up defensively, which heads up is not a lot. And then at the end we'll talk about how we can actually use it in our fleets, and any synergies or combos or things that we might want to take into consideration. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before I start, I will give an apology in advance in case my little dog comes and tries to interrupt us, but hopefully that won't be an issue. So the offensive abilities of the overview of the Winged Hussar. The Winged Hussar is only 6 command points, so it's pretty cheap as far as that's concerned. Its resource and production time is also quite low. For comparison, the Taurus that we did in the last video, I have not upgraded my build times at all, and it takes an hour and an hour and a half, just under, to build a Taurus right now, and it only takes 47 minutes to build a Winged Hussar. So yeah, it is on the much cheaper side of things. Resource cost is also reasonably low for a destroyer, and as we said, 6 command points is really low. Most destroyers are about 8. So yeah, it's on par with the most expensive frigates, which are 6 command points, namely the Xeno Stinger. So aside from its low cost, it doesn't really do a whole lot. It's a DPM ship. It doesn't have much other than some missiles and a cannon, and its main purpose is to just sit in the middle row and shoot at things. And it can do this pretty well because its 2 weapon profiles complement each other quite well, and they are both pretty effective at doing what they're aimed at doing. So yeah, it is a middle row ship, and as says its overall firepower against ships, its main purpose and only purpose is to shoot things. So let's get into it then. What is the offensive abilities of the Winged Hussar? We'll start with the missiles because that's what everyone seems to go to, because it has the higher damage number, higher damage per minute, as opposed to the cannons, but really only by a little bit. It's got 2 of these missile nests, which are pretty effective. They do anti-aircraft counterattack, which sometimes will kick in, but if it does, it's not really a great thing because their hit rate's kind of low versus aircraft, and ultimately we just want to be taking out ships. And it does have physical armor penetration, which is the same as the Taurus's energy shield penetration, and again, I'm not sure exactly how that works when targeting a supercap, so auxiliary, battleship or cruiser. You have a chance to bypass or maybe even completely shut down its physical armor, allowing a lot more damage to get through. I will try and get some tests done to see how that works, but it's going to be sort of hard to test. But yes, its upgrades. Well, actually no, before we go into its upgrades, we do need to look at these module stats here. Duration 4 seconds, so it shoots 1 missile per second essentially. Cooldown 20 seconds, lock on time 4 seconds. The cooldown is a little bit on the long side, but it is shooting 4 missiles, and 140 damage per missile is not too bad, and we've got 2 of these, so really we're getting 8 missiles every 24 seconds, which is not bad. Upgrades, I usually will go straight for the cooldown ones because, you know, it's got a long cooldown timer. And the reason why I haven't assigned upgrades is because, as later on I will explain, I haven't exactly decided what purpose I want this ship to fill just yet. But I'll get to that when I come to making a fully fledged out fleet. But yes, when upgrading the missile system, always go for the cooldown first. It will give you the biggest damage boost, and it will mean that you just get more missiles more often, which ultimately that's what you want. You don't want like 2 sets of missiles every minute, you want like 3 sets of missiles every minute. That's a big damage boost. Then I'll usually go for damage, because the extra damage boost does help them quite a bit against more armored targets, that especially cruisers or the heaviest of destroyers, which can take a large chunk of damage of this missile's shots, purely just off armor, reducing it from like 140 down to like not much at all. So yeah, damage is quite a helpful upgrade on this, but not as important as the cooldown. It does have various hit rate upgrades, which I always go for the frigates and destroyers and the overall hit rate. These are the 2 best because they'll pretty much always kick in, and I don't worry about the ones against fighters and corvettes because I don't really want it to be shooting at them. But if you have space left over, then and tech points left over, then by all means grab that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you won't have room to take the ones against fighters and corvettes if you take the upgrades that I just mentioned, which isn't really too much of an issue anyway. As for the strat, I don't take the strat on this weapon for the same reason that I don't take it on the Taurus, and it does cost 3 less tech points than the Taurus, but it lasts for only 8 seconds as opposed to like 15 or something from the Taurus. We'll go double check that right now. But yeah, as I was explaining with the Taurus in the previous video, there's no point having one strong ability that triggers once in a while. Yeah, 15 seconds for the Taurus. That triggers once in a while when you can just have more damage all the time, because you can't guarantee that you'll be in the engagement for long enough for that to trigger more than once. Oops. And if it does trigger once, you spent 12 tech points to get 80% cooldown for 8 seconds, so you spent 15 tech points to get one extra round of shooting, or maybe 2 extra rounds of shooting every minute and a half, which isn't really that great value in my opinion. If you want to take it, by all means, but generally speaking, having more shots all the time that are higher quality and have a higher chance to hit is much better value. You'll just, no matter how long the engagement is, you'll always be at maximum effectiveness, and you won't be waiting for that next trigger to get a small damage boost when you could just be doing that damage before then anyway, and potentially saving yourself some extra losses or doing some more damage before you go out, whether that's because you retreat or are defeated. In Siege though, it might be a bit more worth it instead of the hit rate upgrades, but ultimately this ship excels at anti-ship, and you don't really want to be spending your coins, your blue coins, just to change the strat and the hit rate upgrades around every time you swap between anti-ship and siege firepower. As for the cannon is an interesting weapon, and it's pretty good. It's got a base damage of 400. Its targeting starts at small ships, then goes to big ships. We're getting 2 shots every round, so it's shooting 2 shots at once. Then cooldown of 25 seconds, which is longer than the missiles, and a lock on of 4 seconds. So in all, this is sort of like a small kind of railgun. It's got a very high damage. 400 damage is a lot. That will punch through heavily armored targets, but its accuracy is slightly faulty. Not as much as say a railgun, but it is still a heavy cannon, so its accuracy is not stellar, and it will get stalled pretty badly by things like Carillions and other dodgy kind of ships. But yes, against heavy armor, which is what this gun is designed for, it will do very well. As for upgrading, I grab the cooldowns first, and then depending I'll grab damage or hit rate. Sometimes I'll just alternate between them and upgrade them at sort of the same time, because the hit rate does help quite a lot, especially against smaller targets. And if you're like me using asteroids and stuff, then small targets is the main thing that you'll be shooting at, so increasing that hit rate will give you more value than increasing its already super high damage. But that's for you to decide on what your target is. If you're farming pirates, which have like big cruisers and battle cruisers and stuff, maybe the extra damage will help you punch through that armor a bit. But in most PvP situations, if you know your opponent, that's great. But in most PvP situations, you want to be taking out people's cruisers and frigates a little bit easier with weapons like this, because they will stall your firepower considerably. So yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll grab the cooldowns, and then based on my need, I will grab the damage or the hit rate first, and then grab the other ones after. And the siege doesn't really matter at all. The siege damage, you don't want to be using this ship as a siege ship. If you are, grab the siege damage instead of the normal damage, or leave out the hit rate upgrade. But yeah, so this ship can do well in siege, but ultimately its best value is in a fast fleet composition for anti-ship, often in a flanking fleet, or if you've got like Taurus or Ares, Aldebra, something like that in the front, or even Carillions or FG300 armored even. These will sit behind nicely and pump out damage, and if you lose them, it doesn't really mean too much. They're quite cheap and easily replaceable. But we'll get more into its uses and combos and stuff a little bit later. For now, armor system. It doesn't have a lot of armor. It's got a base armor of 20, and we can upgrade this by a total of what, 16. So it does have the same armor as the Taurus. Funnily, a lot of destroyers will have a max of 36 armor, and then we can upgrade its hit point pool, but its hit points is still only 20,000 as opposed to a front row Taurus, which is just over 30,000. And I know I keep using the Taurus a lot, but it's because they are oddly similar. But yeah, and the Taurus is front row. But yeah, other front row ships will have a lot more armor. Well, the Aldebra at least will have a lot more armor, and they'll have a lot more hit points and stuff like that. An extra 10k hit points easy. So ultimately, it's not going to survive very long. It will weather chip fire, like from small cannons and stuff that are just scattered on ships. It will weather that fine, but it will get run down pretty easily. It's not an attrition-based ship. It doesn't have any sort of defensive strategies or evasion or anything like that. It just sits behind your front row tanks and shoots missiles and cannon shots. It doesn't have anything notable in its propulsion system, just speed upgrades for after you've maxed everything out usually. I don't often recommend taking the propulsion system upgrades before maxing out the rest of your stuff, because it's just usually not very good value. Yeah, your destroyers are already going to be faster than other ships, and yeah, it's just not great value to do that. So yeah, that's the defensive. It's quite minimal, and this ship doesn't have anything else special about it either. No unique strategies or anything like that. So in all, it's pretty straightforward ship. Upgrade whichever gun you want to fulfill the role that you want. If you want anti-heavy, you're trying to take down cruisers and battle cruisers and stuff, you want that nice armor penetration, and the storm missiles will be just fine on their own because of their ability to punch through supercap armor and stuff like that. They will still be effective damage dealers. But if you want stuff against more medium targets or light targets, usually the missiles are your better option for damage against things that aren't cruisers and above. But yeah, the missiles, generally speaking, most people upgrade the missiles before the cannons, just because they're such a good generalist profile. They can punch through armor, they've got reasonable hit rate for missiles, they've got a good damage and good cooldown, all that kind of stuff. So maxed out, these missiles are very effective missiles, especially for the cost that you're paying for them. But some people go for the cannons because that's what they prefer for the role that they want the ship to fill. So hopefully that helps you guys. If I missed anything, please let me know. I don't think I have. But yeah, I hope you found this useful and learned something new or something along those lines. And I will hopefully see you guys next time. If you want me to cover a specific type of ship or a specific variant or something next, let me know and I'll see if I can shift that up on the priorities. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of just doing it in whatever order I feel like. There is no particular order to things at the moment, just doing whatever I want. So yeah, I'll hopefully see you guys next time. Please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, all that kind of stuff if you feel like it, and have a good one.